Hello, everyone. Hope you are doing great today. Today, we have a very special story that we are going to focus on. And the text that we are going to focus on today is nonfiction. Remember that nonfiction text means that this is real. That is correct. This is a true text. Everything in our story today is true. It has really happened or is currently happening. Today, we are going to read about a famous scientist who studied chimpanzees. Her name is Jane Goodall. Jane Goodall showed that these smart primates use tools. So a chimpanzee is known as a primate. Remember that when we are reading nonfiction text, what is the author's purpose? Is the author trying to persuade us? Is the author trying to inform us? Or is the author trying to entertain us? Correct. When we read nonfiction text, then we know that the author is trying to inform us. They are wanting to teach us about something or someone. So the book that I found today about Jane Goodall is actually an epic book. Remember that if you are on Clever, you can scroll down to your additional digital learning resources, and you can see the icon that says epic, and it has lots of fiction and nonfiction books for you to explore. Let's get started. Our heading says Introduction. Jane Goodall is a famous scientist. She studies chimpanzees. She also works to protect animals. This is a photograph. Remember, a photograph is a nonfiction text feature. In this photograph, you can see a live picture of Jane Goodall sitting and studying a chimpanzee. Our next heading says Early Life. Jane was born on April 3rd, 1934. She lived in London, England. Now remember that England is across the ocean. Jane had many pets. She wanted to study animals. Our next heading says Leader. Goodall dreamed of living in Africa. In 1957, she went to Kenya. She visited a friend's farm there. And here in the background, this is a photograph of the African plains. And then if you look over here, this is a photograph of Jane. In Africa, she met Louis Leakey. He was an archaeologist. She helped him dig for fossils. Do you know what an archaeologist is? This could be a job that you might be interested in one day. If we don't know the definition of something, then remember that we can always look it up. So if I look over here, I went to Google and I looked up the definition of archaeology. And archaeology is the study of things that people made, used, or left behind. The goal of archaeology is to understand what people of the past were like and how they lived. Scientists who study archaeology are called archaeologists. Some archaeological sites, such as ancient cities, are visible on the surface. And so remember that Louis Leakey, he was an archaeologist. Our next heading says History Maker. History Maker. What do you think that could mean? History Maker. Remember, when we make something, then that means we bring it to life or we create it. So could this mean that Jane is going to make something happen that is important for history? Leakey asked Goodall to study chimpanzees. She lived with the chimps in the forest. She watched them for many days. She learned about chimps. She saw that they used twigs as tools. This was important. Scientists have thought only humans use tools. Our next heading says legacy. Goodall works to help animals. In 1977, she started the Jane Goodall Institute. It protects apes and their habitats. Remember, a habitat is a home. You will be learning more about habitats in science. Goodall has won many awards for her research. And this is a photograph of her with one of her awards. She continues to work to save animals. Here's a photograph of her with a chimpanzee. The end. So what were some facts today that you learned about Jane Goodall? Who was Jane Goodall? Remember, if we don't always remember, we can look back in our story. We know that Jane Goodall, her job was a scientist. Her job was a scientist. And as a scientist, what did she do? She studied chimpanzees. And remember that through her studies, what did she find out about chimps? Remember that she saw that they used twigs as tools. And this was important because scientists had thought that only humans used tools. So she discovered something new. I hope you enjoyed our story today about Jane Goodall. Have an awesome day.